Words of wisdom. Handle every situation like a dog. If you can't eat it or play with it, just piss on it and walk away. True story, right?
It's true.
I mean, that would have been my high school years much better.
Dogs live the life. Why not live that life?
Yeah, well,
If I could
eat,
shit
drink, and be
everywhere,
happy.
if I could shit anywhere I want, I have somebody clean it up for me. My God,
It'd be great.
That'd be great.
I do pee in my yard all the time still.
Oh,
I love
Lordy.
doing
I think
that
that's how I got housebroke. I'm not going to lie. Just pee in the yard and drive your pants.
dude! If I could lick my balls, I would just be happy being a house dog. You'd be a house dog. Why go out? You can lick your own balls. My God.
We can dip that in chocolate for you. Everybody, welcome to Fat, Drunk, and Happy. This is season 2 of a formerly show that we're not going to talk about, but really the first of the first of us all getting together and now going the right direction. Restaurant come together, restaurant society and culture all brought together 3 ways, all in one ugly, nice little package.
Are we doing an ugly 3-way? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're all on camera.
Ugly
so.
3-way. Yeah.
So I'd like to introduce you to everybody. And everybody, I mean, the 3 of us. I consider that everybody. Well, and Tony.
And Tony.
Tony's
too, come on.
always the better looking of the 3. Tony's going to make us pizza next time we do this. Is what I
love
heard.
Tony's got a mic now. Tony's got
He's
a...
always-
No, Tony's got the best mic.
What's that, Aerosmith song?
Everybody
Tony's got a
run.
mic?
Tony's got a mic.
It's better than Janie's got a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens, dude. I love that went flat right now. That was the best. So everybody, we've all been on this show many times. So now we're coming together to actually bring this as a tripod and go forward. So sitting to the right of me with a much better haircut than us two is Mr. Dave Mao, of course.
Hello there. Excited. It's going to be a great venture. Let's dissect this restaurant world into little tiny pieces like a high school frog.
High school frog?
High school frog.
I did that in junior high, dude. I was in Texas. We were ahead of you guys.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you were like blasting with shotguns.
Yeah. Well, it was a million pieces of a little fucking
Yeah,
frog.
totally, absolutely.
I'm not going to lie, dude. It is what it is. It is what it is. And next to him is Mr. Benny. Benny, you've been on the show many times, man, but now's the real deal, yeah?
I have, yeah, and I'm blessed to get to hang out with you guys, talk about food and beverage, kind of rise our Orange County and Southern California community up, which is going to be great. And, I'm looking forward to some fun times.
Well, it's just you had the haircut, so we had to do it.
Ah, well,
Absolutely,
dude.
absolutely. And
Hey, you can shave. We could be like the Blue Man Group.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
That would be sweet. One picture. Let's do it.
Exactly.
I had a buddy of mine that was a Blue Man Group for a little bit, and what's funny is you don't realize it, but that makeup soaks into their scalp, and so we didn't know anything. I went to a show afterwards, and in the black light, his whole head blew. Like it was like
Rad.
It was like glowing. I'm like, bro, you can't get out. Anyway, he's like, I know, I'm fucked. Like
Dude,
just no matter what, I'm a blue man no matter what at any club party. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's like a
wow.
prison tattoo. You're just not going to give that one up.
No, yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
think about it. You show up to a nightclub, you walk in, and you're glowing.
That'd be rad.
Everybody's staring at you. Everyone's looking at you. You're fucking glowing.
Yeah,
How
dude,
cool is
you're
that?
the mushroom and acid best friend of everybody in the place, dude.
Well, I will introduce you.
Oh, damn.
Sitting to the left of me is the action-packed Chef Cody Storts of Orange County and Fullerton fame with many shops under his belt and Kung Fu grip as well.
Whoa, we're not supposed to talk about that on air.
Oh, sorry. Hey,
What are you saying here, dude?
it's like you're like G.I. Joe with Kung Fu grip. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was G.I. Joe. Like, growing up, everybody was blowing him up. I was just like hovering. I'm like, these guys are so cool.
I want to be exactly like
Snake
G.I.
was
Joe.
my favorite.
Yeah, Snake was pretty rad, actually. He was like the Skeletor of the G.I. Joe world. Yeah, it was super rad.
Somebody's got to be the badass.
Yeah,
That's really what it comes down
totally,
to.
Totally.
Snake Eyes is supposed to get his own movie soon. That's
No
what they
way.
say. That's
Really?
what they say,
Wow.
man. We're hoping. We'll see.
I'm down. I mean, I'll line up around the
Hey,
block.
Tony, comic book guy, come on. Were they really doing that?
He'll let us know. He'll let us know.
What's the nerd line on that?
It's
Oh,
happening.
no. Are you really getting a toy?
Told you.
Oh, no more
Told
whiskey.
you.
No more whiskey for Tony, dude.
Yeah.
That's it. You're cut off.
His pants are coming off. What did he just bring out? What was that thing? Like a SR-71 with a piggyback
was
something
that,
or another?
dude? What do you got going on there, dude?
Just from the cartoon. Awesome.
From the cartoon. From
Yes.
G.I. Joe. Yeah, that's,
Wow,
well,
nice.
you know.
Well, I'm glad you had that handy. I'm totally shocked by that.
I just found it. I just found it a few weeks ago. That's why.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked by
I
that,
thought it was
too.
gone.
Wow. Man, you're like a nerd for comic book stuff like I am for trains, dude. We should have like a total nerd wrestling match.
Hey, I'll make you a deal. I won't do any of that, Benny.
I'll do all the nerdy stuff.
Will you?
Oh, dude, I
good,
love all the
good.
nerdy stuff.
Yeah,
Star
well,
Wars, Marvel.
I'll go. I just like stand around and
I'm
go,
all
I
about-
don't know.
I
disagree.
actually threw somebody out of Memphis Cafe, right? True story. I threw them out of the bar at Memphis Cafe because they said Return of the Jedi was better than Empire Strikes Back at my bar. And
Ooh.
I was down at I was working the service well, and I heard this
Fighting words.
I heard this out of one ear, and I was like, "Excuse me, what did you just say?" Oh yeah, well, Return of the Jedi is a much infinitely better film than Empire Strikes Back. And I literally put down my stuff, and I was like, "Get the fuck out of my bar!"
Wow.
Let me tell you one little.
So
story.
we have to do
and-
thing. You have like no religion, no politics. Don't fucking talk Star Wars
No,
either.
we're
No,
talking
okay.
Star Wars. We're talking Star Wars.
Anymore.
Hey, let me throw this out. So I posted a picture last night. My CEO of WhistlePig came into town, and we did an event together. You can see that on WhistlePig OC on Instagram. We're with Kiss behind us. But so when
Fat Kiss. I saw that
No,
picture.
mini kiss,
no,
not
they
mini
were
kiss.
Tall Kiss. That was Tall Kiss.
Dude, that guy was the most chubby Gene whatever I've ever seen in my entire life.
He
Dude.
was cool though.
Maybe the white clown makeup did it out, but
So
swollen.
I just started WhistlePig. I went to the farm. I went to the farm for our meeting and everything. The CEO sits at my table. We're all hanging out, and then I start talking about Star Wars and Marvel in front of him, and we're totally geeking out. Just me and a couple guys. We didn't even know we were into that stuff, but we're just talking about what issues, first appearances were, and everything. And my CEO shakes his head and goes, "I'm fucking leaving. You guys suck." I just walked away.
You're like, dude, no way.
He's like, "I'm not even in this conversation. You guys embarrass me."
Well, you know,
Embarrass me.
he's a CEO of WhistlePig. He just went and had a
Yeah,
shot and dealt with it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
Worst case scenario, hammered.
Hammered. Yeah.
Worst and best maybe the same thing, right? You're like, whatever, dude. Handle it. Handle it.
Yeah.
So here's the glory about the three of us coming together, and this is with everybody watching, is that we now get to talk about not only the best things from knowing from what our professional career is, like me talking about the best of food, which is cool because I've eaten crazy amounts of food, and I can appreciate Taco Bell. No bullshit. I have mornings where I'm like, I really want that fake cheese and dog meat or whatever it is. I don't care. I want that. But I can talk about why that has a place all the way up to like the most imported prosciuttos all the way down. And the cool thing is now we have Dave, who's a writer and knows all about culture and the best part of it. And now Vinny that does booze, that we can now talk about all these things on every level from restaurateur all the way down to consumer. And I'm really stoked about that, man.
I am.
You know,
It's exciting.
I think there's a level of knowledge. And for all you guys that just go out to eat in general, like that you go out and you find places to eat and you go there and you're wondering, what's the chef going on? Or you like to look at the kitchen or you're fanning out on maybe the chef. This is a little insight onto like what the reality of what happens back there. And it's not about waiting. All you guys that watched Waiting and made it a real thing, I apologize for that. We don't all spit in your food and teabag your food.
No, we teabag each other, but not your food. I think the waiting was about like showing balls and haha, you had to
Well,
see my
making
balls.
money, dude. We got to make money.
What was
I
it
had to
called
make
though? The bat wings or something like that. I think I saw it once or twice. But
Nothing good.
Ryan Reynolds is always good. How dare you?
I know. How dare you say
He's
that
just
out
such a
loud?
pretty man.
I'll take
but-
my lashings, dude.
But sort of the whole the coalescence of where all three of us.
Coalescence.
Wow, I'm sorry.
You can tell you're a writer, dude.
I'm a
I really
writer,
like
dude.
that,
I'm sorry.
I don't even know what that means.
I was
That
saying
just sounds so
feedback. What was
pretty.
it? Feed something earlier. I can't say.
We're the coalescence of where we all come together is, Chef Cody, like you were a bartender, now you're a
Yeah,
chef. And kind
absolutely.
of the same thing with me. You have a ton of bartending experience. You also are a culture guy and understand product, and that idea that people are engaged with the restaurant world, not just because of food. Food is important and food is one-dimensional, but like Bourdain taught us, it's a culture of food and the culture of people that make things really exciting. And that engagement of what all three of us do in our various experiences, whether it's from a hole-in-the-wall taqueria to
100%.
the best restaurant in Orange County, those have a commonality that should be broadcast, and that's why we're here. So
I think 100%. I think everybody needs to get that, like, when you go to a restaurant, really what you're going to is the facade of what somebody told you is word of mouth or what you read about. Really, that you're going to a perception. And if the food's good, that's a secondary. If the cocktails are good, that's a secondary. It's really about the people and the people there and the persona that it puts out that you were attracted to originally, the idea. And a lot of that comes into play, and not just with products and what they have and what they stand by, but who those people are and what happens. So hopefully we can get them to connect to a little bit of that.
yeah, and there's just a ton of moving pieces that we all can attest to here with product,
totally.
and booze and the food side of things. And if you put if you put the personalities and the people and the commercial aspects and the public perception, we can and will talk about it for a decade to come. Absolutely, yes.
There's enough to say that it'll be entertaining. And you know, we've talked about it. You know, thank God Anthony Bourdain said something, and thank God I kind of wish he never did. You know, we talked about that as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and you'll see for time to come that, you know, we talk about that a lot, about the misnomers and kind of what's out there in the world and what's reality and what's not reality. And the truth is, we're glad you guys come out and keep going out to eat. But we're gonna yap about it. And we're stoked to have products on. I know you bring to the table, Benny, some freaking amazing connects around the country with booze. And people that know way more than what I would ever imagine to even know.
Know way more than myself. I mean, the whole thing is
don't lie, Benny.
There's nothing you can't learn, and once you stop learning, you stop growing, man. You know, and again, this community is really bringing it all together: the bar, the restaurant, the kitchen, and we're really a community of givers. That's what we do. Whether we're giving an amazing meal. An amazing
On the other
cocktail.
side, we're giving it a lot of takers.
Well,
Let's just call it what it is, dude.
We're giving, but I mean,
thanks to Yelp,
the fact
we're a lot of takers.
Is well. I mean, we're giving an experience.
Oh yeah,
and when you
200%.
bring that together, amazing food, amazing cocktail, amazing experience, amazing times. That's what that is, and this is an opportunity for that community to all come together, for us to not just bring up Orange County, which is our home, but Southern California, which is our home, because Southern California deserves a lot more respect than it gets. Northern California and San Francisco is always brought up for food and wine and cocktails, but I believe Southern California, you put together San Diego, what they're doing, Orange County, and LA.
What's San Diego? Just kidding.
San Diego,
Just
yeah.
joking. Yeah.
San Diego's
whale's
cocktail
vagina.
scene.
The whales, but I fly over there from Cabo. That's about it. Hi, San Diego. Yeah.
No,
San
I
Diego,
agree.
we're all
I
jealous.
agree.
That's what it is, because
They just had-
San Diego's beautiful.
They had enough people there and enough schools and enough traveling from other states that enough people there understood it first, that they were able to go there. You know, their clientele understood cocktails first, and so they did. And they did a good job.
We're talking San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego.
San
Orange,
Diego's
Orange County doesn't have the. I mean, we have to train people here to be that way. There's not imports. Like people go to Disneyland and then they leave.
Yeah, no, yeah,
That's
you're
it,
right.
right?
Yeah.
There's no there's not. So we have to. We're creating that from within, which we've done an amazing job as far as cocktails goes. Food wise, they've definitely upped their game, but we're not there yet. I mean,
we can't
most
be.
nice
And
restaurants.
that's
most
kinda
nice
what we're
restaurants
gonna
are still
try
a
to get
sandwich
going
shop on
here.
their back end. You know?
Yeah, and you know, I like that. I like that the term. I'm not sure if I came up with it. Maybe somebody else did. I forget.
I'm going to
But-
give you credit no matter what.
Okay,
you say
cool.
right
Then I'm
now.
going to take credit for this one. But I either said or heard inspired mediocrity, which kind of accentuates a lot of what I think.
100%.
About but I'm a simple guy, Chef. We've talked about this.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Like, I like Taqueria Tapatio #1. That's probably one of my favorite restaurants down in Santa Ana. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, do I like the Chateaubriand Club 33? Fuck yeah, I do. That's great. You know what I mean?
You
But-
cut the middle of a back out of a cow, I'm eating it.
Absolutely. Well, it's like one of my favorite food quotes of all time. Humphrey Bogart said. He said, "Hot dog at the park is better than steak at the Ritz." And I love that.
True.
I love that thought. It's like, oh man, this is really good. Set and setting and whatever. We'll talk more about that later. on.
Environmental does add.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what gets forgetting.
Forgetting.
That's not a real thing. I
Whatever.
can't talk today really well. It's a real thing.
Are you the decider?
Dude, I think it's the 7-month-old and the no sleep phase.
That'll do it.
On top of a hamburger cake that almost killed me today. That's what it is, dude.
That hamburger cake was awesome.
Ah, dude, I'll tell you. I really like about 9:30 last night was like building a hamburger cake for my daughter and went, you know what, honey, we're done. She's like, yeah. I'm like, it's gonna look like it looks. So this is what it's gonna do. I'll post a picture of that too, so you guys can see. It was a monstrous, ugly, fantastic, huge piece of work that my daughter now gets to carry around a 20-pound cake to school.
And say her chef father made for her. Yeah.
I don't think she'll.
You got to give full credit to you, Cody.
Yeah,
on that.
according to my daughter, she's like, I made everything. I said, absolutely.
Yeah, whatever.
You
yeah.
do whatever you want, babe.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Hey, it's like that car in the Cub Scouts at the Pinewood Derby that looked super badass that I supposedly made. You know what I mean?
Well,
Wow,
she's
this
like,
looks great, Dave.
It was
Like,
supposed to be. I'm like, that's supposed to be a pickle, but it kind of looks like lettuce now because it's smashed. So whatever. The green's the green. We'll call it good in the burger.
It's
I don't-
kale.
Yeah, you could be healthy. I don't care, dude. But that made it so I can't talk today. That's my feed mark. for the whole conversation.
It's
Is that
okay.
what
I was
we're doing?
driving all around the Sierras yesterday for 12 hours. I didn't get any sleep last night either, and I feel punchy as hell right now. So whatever comes out of my mouth.
How was that? I saw you went to some town. What was that little town you went to?
It was called Tuolumne. I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, Tony, nerd alert. Yeah, little town called Tuolumne. They had like a bunch of train
Does it have a
there.
freaking toy too?
No, my friend lives out that way. One of my old
In the
my
town
dear-
that he posted?
he lives in Sonora, so yeah, Tuolumne
Yeah,
County.
I stayed in Sonora.
I'm like, dude, where he posted was like maybe a frog in the
Yeah.
whole city
Yeah,
from what I
totally.
saw.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, if I where my buddy lives, that's
Wow.
where. Yeah,
So you go there often?
I haven't been there in years.
Well,
but
of course not. Neither is he.
Yeah,
He doesn't even
right.
know what's going on, dude, if he lives out there. He has no TV, no electricity. Still has like light, like lamps that he has to oil, right?
Well, my friend's a firefighter up that way, so yeah.
Oh, so I'm
yeah,
right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Lamps, oil, plenty of good stuff.
Exactly.
He runs a lot and does nothing. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, Tuolumne, and actually, it was a super railroad geek trip. But maybe I'll kind of get us started off in a little bit of a direction here with that. No, but
Don't get carried away.
no, sorry. But in all seriousness, like I tagged Chef Life on this trip, this railroad trip up north, and I had a friend of mine that texted me, and he's like, "Hey, man, that had nothing to do with food. Why did you tag Chef Life?" I'm like, well, it makes me who I am. It's part of my narrative, and that's going to be translated into the food I prepare and the things that I
100%.
care about. You know what I mean? And it was actually a chef from the Ace, and he's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with cooking. Did you go to any restaurants there? I'm like, I went to a couple of burger places that were kind of good, like the little tiny tasty treat burger or whatever. But I think as chefs and as bartenders and people in the restaurant business, those outside influences that make us who we are, you have yours having a theater background. That's a great example. You know what I mean? So that idea of chef life is just life in the kitchen, or bartender life is just behind the bar, is a fallacy that the public should kind of see through, because we are influenced by the things around us.
That's the life you live, man. You're a chef. This is your life, and this is the kind of where your career and your life is taking you. And so everything that has to, if somebody calls you out on a hashtag, I don't
That
know
guy
what's
needs
going
to
on.
have more time.
Exactly. He's got something going on.
Find a fucking
I
hobby,
will
bro.
defend this hashtag.
Yeah.
But on the same sense, I mean,
You
this is-
shall not pass.
on the same sense, this is your life, and this is the life you're leading as being a chef. And so it doesn't always have to be a kitchen, a piece of food, something that's a plate that's awesome. It could just be you living life. And I think that's where our professions kind of fall astray, is we're so into what we do, whether it's being a chef or creating an experience in the front of the house or making cocktails, that we don't have that balance in life. And you're just trying to share some balance, man.
No, I wish that everybody would understand what it really took in the restaurant business. Even when I was serving and bartending, I really did spend most of my time either making connections, figuring out what to do in my job better. I never really, even though when I became a chef, I really did spend 80 to 100 hours a week there. But even when I wasn't there and was hourly and not doing those things, my life was still consumed by the business. And so that now that people are diversifying from that, like we're able to have like families now as we're older, and kind of branch out, that showing that somebody would say anything different, you're like, dude, this is what's going to carry over to the next thing I do. Not my past restaurant jobs. I'm never going to recreate a restaurant job I had. I'm going to recreate my life and emulate that for you, because it's something that I like, that I share. And I do that in food constantly. We just did that with the event we did the other week.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
We were like, hey, what do we like to make?
Done.
That's what we did. That's what we eat at home. All of a sudden they like it. That's emulating life,
Yeah, and you touched on Bourdain creating that. We talked about in our podcast of the Bourdain creating that idea that we're automatically a bunch of train wrecks because we're in the restaurant business, which is generally kind of true to varying degrees. I always like to talk about are people train wrecks because they're in the restaurant business, or are they in the restaurant business because they're train wrecks? It's a good question.
D,
exactly.
all the above.
All the above. But that idea that is there any nobility to Bourdain's narrative that we are, that we're nailing ourselves to the cross of the restaurant world, that there's some sort of part of ourselves that we're fulfilling by, just absolutely SEAL Team Sixing the whole thing and going, just full bore into the whole experience. I'm not sure if that's sustainable, man. Like,
well, it's not. That's why everybody dies out, dude.
Yeah, totally.
It's not sustainable. And I don't know. The crazy thing about that is you talk about like Sean Brock. Sean Brock got out. He got sober. He's now went through all these mental health things. Sean Brock's amazing. I mean, he was known as the Whiskey King. He came in, and now he's making a restaurant culture where they have like a gym there, and they have, a psychologist on staff, and all this stuff that I thought originally I was like, well, that's cool. And then I thought, well, how much is a freaking bread service?
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
Like so who's going to go eat here now, right? Like, I mean, Sean Rock made it cool, but I'm not going to pay $400 to go eat there. And how is that sustainable to the rest of the world, right? Like the culture, I think the culture's like trying to kick it to like change a little bit. But from a chef's life, I don't know if that's sustainable either.
Yeah. And
Either way, right? I feel like we lost a bit. Like, I feel like I was like a cowboy of doing it right back in the day. Like, you went to work. It was your pride. It was your name. You stood for it. So I had no problem doing all those hours. I had no problem. It just almost killed me.
Yeah, and almost killed me on the bar side.
Right.
And I like being a chef, but I don't want to be dead. You know what I
So
mean?
that's what I mean, though. So there's no right or wrong.
Where's the balance, man? I
Well,
don't
you
know.
do what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Now look at us.
Yeah,
We're
right.
sitting here, we're talking, we're not doing
Right.
shit, and hey, we made it, baby.
Yeah. I mean, that's the, I think that's the balance is you got to, I think that's the weather the storm. So on the other end, you can actually look back. It's like being a vet or whatever, not to say that it's war. I'm not trying to cause any floods, but in a way, the mentality is you went through your phase. And then when you come out of your phase, you either won it, didn't win it, or talked about winning it or losing it. And that's the next phase is how do you help the people to go through it better than what you did?
Yeah, and I was talking with Chef Carlo down at small town Fallbrook about
Right.
it. I'm actually doing an article for the Weekly about the place, and again, my typical fashion, I don't review restaurants. I don't care. You know what I mean? Whatever. But I like telling stories about restaurants and people and the culture, or whatever. And Carlo's facing obviously some challenges in Fallbrook with staffing. It's a small town. It's not that big of a place, but he's also kind of coming to a point in his career where that idea of mentorship, not just in the kitchen, but in life is there. Like he's people that have problems, like he's taking in people and trying to create, quote unquote, a safe space in his, I hate that phrase, by the way.
That's a good phrase, though.
But he's like, hey, this is home, man. Like whatever's going on outside here, like you can talk about it here, but this is a different environment. And you really have to get to a much different point in your career to have that attitude, because so many chefs are hard asses. They're hyper focused. They only care about food. I always say that chefs try and engineer people like they engineer plates, which is always a freaking losing proposition.
Yeah, that's a horrible
Like,
idea.
why aren't you like this food? I can do this. Well, they're people. They're different. You know what I mean? And that idea that when you mature as a chef, you get out in your 30s and 40s, or in my case, 52, that you have the objectivity and you survive, man. We're sitting here. How many of our friends did not make it? You know what I mean?
that is the truth. I've lost. I have 3 friends of mine that are chefs that all 2 of them suicide and 1 of them OD. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And the hard part is that was their decision.
Yeah.
I was right along with them. I'm glad I made it, but that was about it. And so on the other side, I mean, even as the time comes where I was into managing, and I think that's part of why I got out, is managing people of the new genre of employees just wasn't my MO, nor do I know how that fits into how the restaurant's going to evolve as a culture, right? I don't know how you're going to afford it or do it, or as an owner. There's no real answer out here yet. So
Yeah, it's an interesting format. Kind of same thing on the bar side too. I mean, you obviously have a lot of time under your belt. I'm sure you would probably have the same approach in a bar, behind a bar, to like mentor young bartenders. I'm sure you came up during the craft thing, I would imagine, correct?
I started when it was everything coming out of guns and stuff, but I had to relearn everything. But on the same sense, I have also had quite a few friends that have within the industry, whether they are bartenders or servers, take their own lives. And you give so much to the world, and sometimes you end up disappointed. I personally, life is tough for some people, and sometimes those are the people that have a hard time reaching out for that help and expressing themselves. So you never really know where people are in their head, but in the same sense, this is a community, and the key is to take care of each other. Because if we don't have each other, I mean, we're all in the trenches together. So if we don't have each other, who do we have?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what this is all about, and I'm stoked to see it, because that wasn't what it was about when I grew up doing this. I went over and did some time in France, and really what it was about was getting the work ethic and the styles beaten into you, and it did me right. I'm not gonna lie. Like, for my generation, for what I did, and I grew up in football in Texas, and I grew up with hard knocks, that I was totally fine with the pan being thrown at me, and I wouldn't do it again. right? But
Yeah,
then
you
again,
learn that way.
yeah,
You
then
do.
then you get drunk with a guy later, and he tells you why, and that's how it is. And that just doesn't work now. So hopefully there's some sort of knowledge or power to get this to figure out the genre to go forward.
Yeah, it's sandwiching. It's giving a compliment,
Well, that's what we're doing with Dave right
giving
now.
your
Little
criticism.
sandwiching, dude.
It's fine.
2 pieces of white bread with some sexy ass meat on it.
How dare you call me white bread again?
Torta ahogado con Cody.
With that being said, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back right after this.
Peace.
Right on. Welcome back to Fat, Drunk, and Happy. I'm not going to lie. It's been a fun day out here in the backyard. It's always cool by the pool, Tony.
Thanks, man. I like
Yeah,
it back
it's
here.
It's always cool by the pool, dude. That's what we're going to name this series. Anything by the pool will be cool by the pool.
Cool by the pool.
Fat, Drunk, and Happy, dude. Nice cocktail. Thank you very much for bringing that in, Benny. Very
very
tasty,
welcome.
dude. Yeah. Always a delight.
Even a nose full was fantastic, actually.
You're
yeah.
welcome, dude.
Yeah,
It could have been the
yeah.
other way.
Exactly. Wow.
I mean, you said I don't put it in that end, but
yeah.
you never
My
say anything about the other end, bro.
My sphincter burns. Yeah. I quit drinking alcohol with my mouth, right?
Right,
That doesn't mean.
Nowadays they do it all kinds of ways.
Yeah,
I hear.
exactly. Give it to Stevie Nicks, start blowing some meth up my ass.
Yeah, well, a tampon full of something, still a tampon full of something.
Those kids nowadays,
Those kids
you know.
nowadays.
Yeah,
I think we're to that age
they
where we're
need
like,
less.
those kids.
I wonder if they were doing that when I was young. I think they just went, "You dummies, we did it all." It's kind of my parents' theory.
Listening to that grunge music.
Yeah, right.
So negative.
Yeah, my dad actually told me there's no way you can party harder than me, and so I had to try to live into that. That was
Yeah.
I was like, really? Fuck yeah, I can. Let's talk about this, dude.
Yeah.
Now we're like, dude, what are you doing? It's just I think the theory changed.
Yeah,
The conversation's different now.
I'm going a total different route. I'm like, hey, kid, there's no way you can love Marvel more than me. And so now she's a total nerd. So back to the nerdum.
Nerd.
So yeah, we got to do a tiny little toast, christening this brand new podcast that we have going on together, and this partnership with some Whistle Pig Boss Hog,
well,
Boss Hog
yeah.
6, brand new. Not at this time that we're talking. It's not even out yet. So
Boss Hog 6, is that like
Boss
so?
Hog
So are you
6.
changing it every year? Are they
every year, yeah, it's always going to be. It's always going to be single barrel. It's always going to be.
You know what's
barrel-proof.
great? I think you guys are one of the only ones doing that. We've interviewed a bunch of brands and liquor reps that always try to be consistent. And God knows I've opened enough restaurants where they're like consistency's key. And everything that I ever opened, I was like, you know what the consistency is? Change. The consistent thing is I'm always going to make something different that's good.
Yeah.
And for a big brand, that's freaking hard to do because by the time it gets out and you talk about it and the way the media moves, you can't talk ahead of yourself. Where in a restaurant, you're like, oh, you can come. It is what it is. But for brands, it's a real ballsy move to change things year to year.
Every year, special.
So for your only consistency for that
Special
brand is
finish.
change, which is very unique. I mean, Jack Daniels, God forbid, they had the water well that almost dried up and they had to take the 57 or whatever off the bottle or something. I mean, it was like a huge thing when you're like, dude, it's, bad whiskey. I mean, take it what it is.
Hey, Frank Sinatra's buried with it. It can't be too bad.
Well, that's the best part of it. Let me put it that way.
Frank Sinatra's your spokesman.
That and everybody else's stories that I don't remember about me drinking it were the two best things about Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels are just way too sour mash for me. And don't get me wrong, I'll leave, Evan Williams was fine. Even Rebel Yell was a little bit more mellow than that. But JD, there was something. I wouldn't even drink it in the mountains, but whatever.
No, JD had that nice punch in the throat where you're like, oh, that's definitely a rough, genre.
Yeah, but it's weird. We were just talking about rye whiskeys and mash bills and stuff like that. Like when I would go in the mountains when I was still drinking, man, honestly, I would just get a handle of CC. You know what I mean? Like Canadian Club was easy drinking to me. I know it was garbage, but yeah.
So there's a difference between drinking in the mountains
and drinking down here,
and drinking at a bar.
Yeah.
I mean, and it depends what bar you're at. Like if I go to a nice place, I don't order a shitty cocktail. I try to see what they got. If I go to the mountains, I take whatever I need for the week. You know what I mean? If I'm going for 4 days, I need enough volume to last 4 days, which isn't a lot, but
it's why all the cowboys drink Kessler, which isn't even whiskey. It's like grain neutral spirits with caramel coloring.
So,
you know what I mean?
So Kessler's story, true story. I'm surprised I didn't get some sort of disease from this story. I was in San Diego. We took the train down from Fullerton, which you can drink bad wine and booze on the train all the way from here to there to go see a game. I don't watch any sports at all. I'm not interested in sports at all. However, I was like, yeah, I'll go to a game. I'll go to a baseball game. So we take the train down. We drink all the way down. I went with the Bourbon Street guys, which that can get ugly real quick.
They know how to party.
So we drink all the way down. I get down there, and I don't remember. I remember getting to the stadium. I remember shots with John. I don't remember much. And then next thing you know, they were telling me stories and have pictures of me taking. There's a bum on the street that was drinking a bottle of Kessler. That wanted to drink with me. And so I shared this bottle of Kessler with him on the streets in San Diego. True story.
Dude, that's cool.
I'm
man.
like, come here, dude. I got it. And God knows I don't remember any of it. But
dude, I think that's cool.
But that's nothing
shameful.
But I seriously said no. I just was surprised I didn't get some. I'm glad the alcohol content was high enough. The herpes set into my freaking. Because it was bad. The dude I was with was obviously like, they didn't get close enough, yet I shared a drink with the dude out of his bottle.
I give you
Kessler,
props on
dude.
that, dude.
No, well,
That's cool. That's what it's about. I thought you were going to say, I thought the story was going to go a totally different way.
No, that was it. I
nice,
literally
dude.
shared with a bum a bottle of Kessler, and then somehow we made it home.
Yeah.
But there's pictures. I bet if we asked, there's pictures.
Are we going to get that on the Instagram?
You got to ask John and Larry,
dude. I'll hit John up right
Hit
now.
John
I'll
up,
text
dude.
John.
Yeah, John has. It was with John, and I was. It was very furry. They're very like
the homeless guy was first?
No, I mean like the whole trip was very.
Fuzzy, you mean?
Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Footy,
footy,
Because
fuzzy.
that kind of day,
whatever.
I told you that's not. Today's not the day for.
Well, if you're gonna drink whiskey with a bum, make it ancient age. That's just 2-year-old buffalo trace. You know what I mean?
That's actually called nice in most things.
Yeah, actually, that's what my grandmother used to drink because she came up. I love talking about this. You want to talk about whiskey?
Yeah.
So, my grandmother came up, grew up during the Depression. You know, I remember her telling me stories about, they'd be stoked if they got a piece of bread with lard on it at one point, or she would eat it.
I
like
would
a
be
ride.
stoked if I got a piece of bread.
No,
with lard
seriously,
on it.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
But it's funny. She always had a handle of ancient age in her, and she loved old fashions. I still made her old fashioned, the Lola. We did it at Memphis. She would candy her own oranges and simple syrup. And
that's awesome.
And then keep the oranges in an old applesauce jar in the fridge. And probably what gave me part of my penchant for drinking was she would always give me the orange out of her cocktail in San Francisco back in the late 60s and early
gangster.
70s when I was a little kid. She'd go, here you go, sweetie, have an orange. You know what I mean? But anyway, she would.
He was like, I was high as a kite and slept like
No,
a
it was
baby.
great,
I don't
yeah.
know what's going on.
But it's weird because she only drank ancient age, and she wouldn't even spend money on booze if she went out. She would get like a well or a call maybe. So this culture of people buying premium spirits, as scotch and cognacs and stuff, has been going on for a long time. But generationally, especially in America, that it's only a relatively recent thing. And if you talk with Frank Panza at Santa Anita, who I was talking about, that's been there for 50 years, he tells a story that like he had a bottle of vodka that sat there for 8 years and no one touched it until Smirnoff came out in the 70s when people started drinking vodka. Like, there's all these cool cultural things about not just chefing, but bartending.
100%.
Yeah. Everybody's into high-end spirits. I mean, Whistlepig does high-end, it does craft spirits. I mean, luxury craft spirits. So,
Which word do you prefer, by the way, luxury or craft?
No, I prefer them together.
Okay. No, it's fine. I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, they have
the evolution of marketing. Is right in front of us.
They have two different implications. I'm kind of weighing both of them, but you're right. In conjunction, they kind of go together.
It's expensive, so it's luxury. But I mean, it's Whistlepig is definitely craft.
You know what's funny? When you say craft, I think like of the brown paper that goes on the bottom of.
I think of macaroni and cheese.
I was thinking of cheese. Yeah, exactly.
It's so funny.
I'm thinking of the brown packet that you open up when to make macaroni and cheese. It's so funny that craft
became like a nice thing when really all I know it as is kind of like, oh, it's just the brown stuff.
Yeah.
That's it. Or mac and cheese, right?
Well, that's what I sell, the brown stuff, baby.
Yeah, well,
there we go.
Just sold the white stuff and the green stuff for a long time. But
just don't say
a new color.
Just don't say artisanal, man. That one just bums me out. God,
I don't know how to say artisanal. I mean, I'm copying you, but artisanal.
It just means by hand, which is really not the case because you're still using an oven or other shit.
Yeah.
Like literally means nothing.
It literally means it's like farm to table. It's like everything comes from a farm and goes to your table. It's just a different journey.
By hand.
Yeah, artisanal just means like by hand or cultivated by a genre.
Once you get married,
think a forged sword. That's like artisanal.
Artisanal by hand. So once you get married, sex is artisanal.
Yes, artisanal.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Well done, dude.
I don't know.
Benny,
I'm just saying.
Benny, welcome to the party.
It's all about the details.
That's all I have to say, dude. Welcome to the party, bro.
Thanks,
Welcome to the
man.
party. But yes, that is the MO.
Yeah.
By hand.
By hand.
So everybody's like, oh, I made this bread by hand. I'm like, you actually made it by oven. True story, right? Like, so how do you get a word that combines the two? Because you're not doing both. They're like, no, but it's by hand. I'm like, dude, Marketing's a motherfucker.
Yeah,
that really is what it is.
Yeah, and it drives me nuts. Actually, it's speaking of pronunciations. Like I just did a thing about I say culinary. I have a very
Yeah, I haven't made fun of you for it yet.
That's fine. I say culinary. I'm from Southern California, man. Like, and
I'm from Texas. We say cook.
cook exactly. But like I've had some guys.
It's real phonetic.
It's culinary. I'm like, I say culinary, dude. Like I live in Orange County.
It's actually the right way to say it.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
I thought
100%
it was culinary.
No, well, that's like the Midwest, whatever, American.
It's so funny how we take words.
Culinary is like what I would consider the right way to say it. Just nobody does it. So
Yeah, I mean, like, I say culinary. It's culinary. It's like, well, I'm not all snobby and fucking from New York or whatever, dude. I'm sorry. I say culinary. Culinary sounds way better with a bong in one hand. Let me put it that way.
I was thinking, like, who's the smart guy?
Yeah, who's big, big old brain on Dave over there? Yeah.
No, I think that's the right. No, not I think. I mean, in everything that I've learned, that's the right way to say it.
In America, we tend to take the words and put it in how we phonetically say something instead of the actual way that it's said from the country.
Well, that's
that
why I
it comes
say
from.
ass hat instead of a sat.
I mean, is it really tomato or is it really tomato?
Doesn't
I mean,
matter, dude.
But I mean, which one was it originally?
It only matters if they're in season.
This show needs to break that. Once we break that story, that's going to be it. That makes us.
Well, and look, I like talking about cumin all the time too, and the pronunciation of even the word chip. I mean, it should be coming.
It's
pretty, but
you can't
cumin,
say that out loud.
Yeah, it should be coming. But
hey, hand me 2 tablespoons of the cumin.
Yeah, exactly. Or cumin. Or, in Spanish, it's, comino. I don't know.
That was a car.
I want some cumin on my food, please. Can you do that for me?
El Camino?
The El Comino.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I thought that was, no?
Yeah.
Put that on my dinner. You're welcome.
Can I get some Elko, please?
Write that shit in the Times, bro. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They'll send you right out the door like they did me.
Motherfuckers.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So a little bit, we talked about this to get into a little bit of our background.
Yeah.
For the guys that that have been listening before or followed this like trail to where we lead now, a little bit about us. Benny hasn't got into a whole lot of his because we always talk about your product, but this isn't about your product anymore. It's about you, brother. It's about you and your haircut, dude.
Dude, sexy.
That's really the
haircuts. Sexy haircuts, no sexy haircuts.
Sexy hair, no grow is
That's
really
right.
my
Sexy hair, no grow.
Yeah, sexy haircut by default is
no
what
grow
I'm
a long
after.
time.
True story.
I'm more interested in Dave, but let me throw a little bit about myself. I've been a bartender for 21 years before I moved on to being a brand ambassador and steward of the brand.
What's the difference?
Really,
I don't know. I'm asking.
So being a brand ambassador, you're mostly just promoting the brand.
Right.
I have to go in and build relationships and get on cocktail menus and get into new establishments.
We call that sales.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, that's just in reality, it's not.
But
like,
I do a lot of events. I do all those things. I mean, there are some sales, but I mean that's where we really want to go is brand of the or steward of the brand, because you're steward of protecting the image and respecting the brand and representing the brand.
Maybe that's why nobody told me that. They don't want me to steward a shit.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, Cody, just talk about it, move on.
Yeah, just power right through it.
But yeah, I've been a bartender for 21 years, 21 plus. I'm a family man, so today is my 22nd anniversary with my wife.
Happy anniversary to your wife.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hey, dude,
absolutely.
she put up with my shit for that long.
That's crazy.
I love her.
People ask me what's the longest thing you ever did? I ask my daughter, I go, how old are you? Like, you're for sure the longest consistent thing in my life. No question.
Your family is key, dude.
Oh,
and
I know now.
Somebody, you find that right lady that can tolerate your lifestyle. Being as crazy as our lifestyle is, it's amazing, and I'm blessed to have my wife Nicole. So, and again, I have a daughter Simone who is 13 now. So she's like, screw you guys, I want to hang out with you right now. And it's like, it's heartbreaking when your little girl who like loves your attention and wants your attention is like, I got better things to do. Yeah, scoot on over.
It's called getting old, dude.
It is called getting old,
and that also is what's called finally the time you get to meet your wife. I mean, that's what I've heard so many times. It's like when your kids grow up, I mean, you appreciate all those times and what you're growing. And I don't know, I'm not on that side, but from what I've heard from people I talk to, especially other chefs when I talk to that are older and now they got out and do other things, they're like, man, what's crazy is I thought when I left the restaurant industry, I would be one thing and I learned my family one way. But when my kid stopped needing us, I got to really meet my wife.
Yeah.
And I heard that numerous times now.
That's
You know,
where
that's a
so
good
it
point.
just reminded me what you said. So I
Where
don't
my
know
bump
from
is.
personal, but like just so you know, I mean, I've heard this before that's a real thing, man.
You know, let me tell you, I'm so busy doing other things that I probably neglecting that. So,
Well, you're
you know,
just getting into it. Sounds like it sounds like
it
it's
is.
just
It is
happening.
just happening. But on the same sense, man, dude, I take that to heart. I'm gonna really work on that.
Yeah, the minute your kids start to be independent, you can really look at how you've evaluated where your life are and what your is, because you're not looking to grow somebody else. You can really live for who has to live in your house, and that's you and your wife, man.
Yeah.
I mean, your kid's gonna
you're
go
the
away,
team, man.
just so you know. They'll come back, but
Yeah.
they're gonna go away.
Your team is helping to raise that kid, and that kid's gonna try to divide that team.
So I keep telling my daughter, I go, "You're 9 now. I got like 2 more years to install it, and
only
then
a
whatever I
couple
taught
more.
you, I'm gonna get back." So, so we're about to learn if I did okay.
yeah,
I tell you
having
all
a
the time,
family
it
is
is what it
hard.
is.
Just putting that thumb drive in the side of her head, just
Well,
freaking
just like,
downloading
letting you know
files.
what I
Yeah.
hear back just means how much I fucked up. That's it. That's the
But-
real answer.
Family is key. So you know, I bartended for about 13 years in Las Vegas. Caesar's
was Vegas
Palace
like,
most of the
dude?
time. Dude, I'm gonna share because I haven't really shared this story on a podcast yet.
Totally.
But it's one of my most favorite stories in bartending in Vegas, and I have quite a few just horrible stories.
I have plenty of bar
But,
stories in Vegas.
So-
Not tending, but
So I'm working a portable bar in front of Pure Nightclub. Back in the day, the Pure Nightclub was like the hottest. Britney Spears was doing the New Year's Eve event. So it was New Year's Eve in Las Vegas, right in front of Pure Nightclub at Caesar's Palace. And I'm working a portable bar because we would just feed off that line. You got
easy
a
money,
2-hour
dude.
line.
Yeah, yeah.
in Vegas,
You're gonna
wherever you
need
put a
some
hole that
cocktails.
has liquor, people line up.
Yeah, and
People
then just
are
throw
there.
$20 bills
Yeah,
at
they
you.
don't
Yeah.
care. Yeah.
And so I'm working this this portable bar right in front of Pure. I'm there for the rest of the evening, and this group of girls come out, and one of them just starts throwing up in my trash can. And so I'm sitting there going, "At
least it was a chick."
hilarious."
Like,
and they're all really pretty. Young
Was there
girls.
Instagram then? Because that would have been the Instagram
Oh,
moment.
dude,
for
I
sure.
did not. Well, a shot was taken, so let me share.
Okay.
So they throw up. She's not feeling good. At the hotels in Las Vegas, I always like to say we offer taxi service, which is security with a wheelchair that will take you right up to your room.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we're always
Sounds
going to make
fantastic.
sure.
That's what happened to my ex-wife on her bachelorette party. She got wheeled up, covered in a trash bag. I'm not kidding you. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. No, she threw up. She had her wheelchair. I saw a photo. Covered in a trash bag. Covered in her own
Wow.
barf. Like, yeah.
No Sharpie mustache.
No Sharpie mustache.
Well,
her
see,
friends
those are
weren't
real
that mean.
friends
No,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Those are
Real
real
friends.
friends.
So she's throwing up in the trash can. The girls are taking care of her. Security comes to get her in a wheelchair. They wheel her off. All the girls go off. One security guard sticks around. He's standing next to me, and he's like, "Hey, look at that." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Look at the floor, man." So I walk over. I look at the floor, and there is a large piece of crap right on the floor where she was throwing up.
Wow.
Fantastic,
She pooed
dude.
herself
With
too.
with the Caesar's
No,
Palace.
she didn't poo
envelope.
herself.
She took a crap right on the floor at Caesar's Palace. She threw up so damn hard.
Oh,
And that is
Well, you know what the best part of that story is that you're missing? That meant she wasn't
what's
wearing
that?
underwear.
that means she wasn't because it was perfect.
Good point.
It was-
Hey, don't call me a genius or anything, but
I'm going to call you a sick fucking weirdo. I was going to call you, but yeah.
I took a
sorry I went there, but
Whatever Japanese guy.
somebody's
Speaking
got a
of
video
sick
something,
weirdo.
though.
I took a picture of that.
That's
so you have a
fantastic.
Caesar's Palace, the big logo with a big turd right in the logo, which is fun. But I mean, Las Vegas
That's
is
going,
crazy.
That's
I've
going
seen
on the site as well, right?
I
on,
don't
dude.
know.
Come on,
I don't
bro.
know about that.
I won't
So-
tag her in it.
So let me say it. I mean, I've seen women get up on the bar completely nude. I've seen SWAT teams circle the bar looking for people. I've seen crazy things. You become jaded. You look at it, you're like, oh, that's cool, and you keep going because you don't have time. You're 5 deep. You're slamming it. You're there to make money. It's business, and you're there to make money. But I mean, it's a great time. If you're gonna have a job, that's a job to have. You know, being in Las Vegas was a blast. And the only reason I came back to Orange County, because my wife and I, we met in Orange County. We went over to Vegas, survived 13 years, not just
That's
being married
miracle.
to a bartender,
Right.
but being married to a bartender in Las Vegas, very tough. So, I mean, it's true love. Neither of us refuse to give up on each other. We're both very stubborn. But came back here because the school districts were better.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
get back
Vegas
to
is no
family.
place.
No place. to
Yeah,
raise a
Vegas
kid.
is no place to raise a kid.
As
man, let's be
Chris Rock
honest.
said, man, it's my job to keep her off the pole.
Keep her off the
Yeah.
pole. dude.
So that was a key, and started bartending
I
here.
love that. That's our motivation as dads nowadays. What do you do? We're like, we just follow Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Fuck, why not?
He's wise. You do, but came back here. I started-
He's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's the quote for this show. Why do we follow Chris Rock? Because he's wise.
He's wise.
That's it. That's it. Tag away, bro.
So I came back home, started bartending at Pelican Hill. Found it to be rather
Great establishment, by the way.
beautiful establishment. I was at Andrea, their front lobby and fine dining restaurant, and it was rather challenging learning all those wines. So I decided, I want to find a USBG to be a part of, and they didn't have a USBG in Orange County. So from that, I went around and started the United States Bartenders Guild chapter in Orange County, which is kind of what I've run for 5 years now.
So let us know what is that exactly? I see it everywhere, but like, what's the goal?
So the goal is providing education, providing being able to mingle and socialize, network with other bartenders, help you build your career, and doing stuff that is a balance of life. I mean, coming together, having a good time as well. So, as long as we have those three things going in our meetings, the meetings are very, very successful. But, we've been doing this for 5 years, and I started the chapter, and I'm president of the chapter right now. And, time will come where it's like, hey, old man, move on. Young blood is ready to take over. And I'm
like,
excited.
please God.
Please God, yeah.
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of free work.
Can I
but,
just go work at High Times, please? Yeah, that sounds great.
I love High Times. So if you ever need anything, High Times Wine Cellars is the
absolutely.
place to go, man.
They're
It's
great. Yeah.
free commercial to you guys. But on the same
We
sense,
heart you.
with the
Well done.
USPG, I've gotten to create the Bar Host, which is my consulting company. And through that, I mean, my wife just asked me the other day, because I'm going through my resume, adding all the events that I've done. She's like, how many events have you done in the past 5 years
Jesus.
as a consultant? I'm like, man, it's like 80 right now. It's like 80 events that I've done, whether it be consulting for a restaurant or whatever it is, foodie shows we've seen each other at. So, I mean, the USBG makes it so you can build a career and have that attention on a national basis where somebody goes, hey, you're in the USBG and you're really doing
you
it.
created that, let's be honest.
Well, I created this chapter.
Yeah, but that's
But
huge.
The US, thank you.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing.
Yeah, there was nothing going on out here. There was nothing. There was like Rogue 101. And I wish chefs did that. When I went back to New York, my buddy cooks in New York, and all the chefs get together around 10 o'clock on Friday or Saturday, and the chefs all go eat and drink together. There's like, not all, but like enough that like you have a group, and everybody knows each other, and everybody's supportive. And I was like, what the hell's going on? This is really bizarre that this is happening. And where I come from, we all just like fight and don't talk. Even when we go to things, we're like, nice to meet you, but we never like meet,
But
and
that's
it's
key.
the fact. Well, you can't though, right? I mean, the fact that you're creating that for bartenders is good, man. There's none of that for chefs out here.
Yeah. Well,
that's sad, though.
and
No, we don't all meet till afterwards, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it.
And I know, actually 3 years ago, almost maybe to the day, me and Anais, I always forget how to pronounce her last name.
Whatever.
But yeah, she was. I remember. She was working over at SoCo, and she invited me to a food and wine event down there, and we later kind of came up with this thing. But after it was the tasting table with the wine and the small bites and whatever, and we met at Memphis afterwards, and she's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Well, hey, this wasn't anything more than every other
Right.
one. I mean, it is what it is." And she's like, well, what would you do? And I literally just blurted out. I'm like, well, if it was me, I would do one of these things, but for industry people only with no media, and do, make it kind of geared towards us, which is how we came up with Behind the Line, which we did 3 years ago at SoCo.
Totally.
Which I don't, do you remember that?
I do remember that. And that was they called me to be on it, and I just was fucking busy, dude. I mean, that's the end all.
Oh, actually, I did reach out to you. That's the first time I ever reached out to you.
me and you talked, and I was like,
Always
absolutely,
going to
but I couldn't get away.
But it was awesome. Like, it was literally like 150 people, industry only, no media,
Totally.
3 moderated panel discussions. Everyone just brought booze and cooked, and it
No
was
media.
awful.
You don't go on to Cody. I take it back.
Exactly. Yeah,
Sorry.
Well, yeah. No. Let me put this
Cut
way.
me out,
No media that we didn't want. Is
Right,
what
right, right.
Oh, there you go.
But,
We'll say it's a controlled media. That's different.
No judging.
Yeah, but it was cool, and that was like and people left and like, man, no one does this. I'd like to do it again sometime
Right.
at some point, but
We'll
was
set
cool.
that up. We could set that
Let's
up.
do behind the line again. Yeah,
Dude,
please.
But
Yeah,
that's what this is supposed to
So,
be. It's
with-
us creating that atmosphere of bringing food and beverage together, but bringing chefs together and kind of sharing what they've done. But with the USBG chapter, I've gotten to create my own consulting company, which is a bar host. So, like, I'm on Instagram and social media as a bar
No
host.
way.
No, really?
And
Wow.
through that,
fucking way.
That's like saying Tony's a nerd. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
Do you
don't hate the player playing the game, man.
Yeah, cut that one out,
Do
Tony.
you have a spaceship that's USGG?
I don't have a spaceship, but I'm hoping after
Does it look
this
like
podcast,
ELO, the
guys,
cover out of the Blue? That'd be rad.
contributions, we can afford a spaceship.
That was the best comment
Like
today.
that
dude.
one.
Not gonna
Oh,
lie.
damn it, I missed it. What was that comment?
Dude, are you an ELO fan?
An E-elephant?
ELO fan?
ELO.
Electric Light Orchestra? No.
Is that like the Electric Light Parade at Disneyland?
No.
What
Yes. Let's
Damn it, I missed the
yes,
joke.
dude.
Okay,
Okay, I wish I didn't even go
No,
The
back to
answer
it. I
is
missed
yes.
it. Damn
It's
it.
just like the butterfly that goes down the main street.
What-
That's lit
what-
up.
when I had the
Same
alibi,
difference.
When I had the alibi out in Palm Springs, my executive sous chef was
Shoe chef?
sous chef was this girl Claudia from Bakersfield. Anyways, all I listen to is ELO when I'm
Oh,
working,
well.
right? And she's like, "What's this band?" I'm like, "Oh, they're called ELO." What's an ELO? Electric Light Orchestra. Like, obviously she's 30 years younger than me. I'm like, just get used to it because
You just tell them it's what became before Pretty Lights. Do you know Pretty Lights now?
yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's the
same
original
thing,
Pretty
yeah.
Lights.
Original Pretty Lights. Tony's going to chime in on this.
Oh no, it's that one song from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that everyone made a big deal about.
Wait, what was the song? that
ELO's
Guardians of the Galaxy
ELO's
did?
the ish, dude.
Look,
ELO's
What
bomb.
was the scene?
The opening scene.
Yeah,
in-
the
in-
where he's
whole
doing the
thing.
dance?
yeah, that's
The-
ELO.
Part one?
Yeah, no, to 2.
What song is it?
Oh.
Mr. Blue.
Oh, Mr. Blue Sky. That's
Yeah.
why I was hearing it in supermarkets because I
Okay.
never saw the movie.
Yeah,
but-
that was
but
the
I-
opening scene. It was really good.
Got it.
Dude,
No,
Baby
nice. Yeah.
Groot.
It's one of my
Baby
favorite
Groot's
songs.
dance
Baby
was
Groot
better.
dance was all.
Baby Groot dance was
Really?
best.
Baby Groot meets ELO?
Oh, see,
Yes.
come
How do
on,
we even
now-
get on this
how can you
tangent?
not
This
get
is
on- how can
crazy.
you not be a nerd?
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So before
I've got a
I
total
wanna-
nerd boner now.
You knew that was Snake's ship, but you don't know ELO.
I don't know. I know from Marvel. That's right. So because I am extremely interested, I keep finding
Holy fuck.
all this information out about Dave. I want to do like a final wrap with
Yeah.
with the bar host. Like I've been very blessed and lucky of getting to work all these food festivals, but on the same sense, like getting to speak at the bar and nightclub convention, doing a seminar, presenting best bartender this year at the Golden Foodie
Who got it, by the
Awards.
way?
Ravin Bazell from CDM Restaurant. So I'm a
That
big,
CDM
big
is beautiful,
fan.
by the way.
He's a member of our chapter, so seeing a member get to win, honestly blessed. He was up against Robert Adamson, which is the Blind Rabbit. So just those two kind of going at it.
Hey,
I mean,
I love
phenomenal talent with both of those gentlemen.
I love you at every fiber of the being, but Golden Foodies I have a hard time with.
Oh, dude.
I have a great time when I go. Don't get me wrong.
Let me
I've never been.
Let me wrap this and let's go into this discussion. So I mean, and then from the bar host, I've gotten to do, my book, which I'm so happy to. What was it called again?
The book? You
No,
don't
I'm
remember
kidding.
the book?
Cocktails
Oh,
Made
God.
Simple.
Jesus.
What are
I'm
we-
hoping you would chime in, man. How can I forget my own book?
Oh.
It's tattooed on my arm. I don't have tattoos, but
I write book good.
Cocktails Made
We're doing
Simple,
dirt, dirt, dirt.
which you can order on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So, but let me. That's my wrap on what I've been doing and what I have going on. Again, I have the bar hosts who hunt me down on social media.
You said that.
I'm saying it twice. You gotta,
Like,
it's repetition. Is
we
what
got
makes them
you.
remember.
Good thing we have an editor.
But let me
Good.
throw this out. What's your problem with the Golden Food?
I'm just fucking with you, dude. Go ahead, dude. I don't care.
We'll save that
You're
one for
good.
another
Yeah,
podcast.
that's
Yeah.
another deal, dude.
All right.
Hold on, Tony's giving us the
All
finger.
right. Are we wrapping and then doing a? All right. Well, there
You
we
got
go.
you got shut down.
I got shut down. Hey,
It's
listen,
good.
dude.
All
love-
if anything
all
came out of
love.
this, go check out the bar host.
Third time is it says three
Third.
times, so thank you.
Yeah, no worries, dude. Dave, what's the rap? Something about Snake, a little ELO.
I don't know. What do you mean, the wrap up for this?
I don't know. Yeah,
I
what's
think
your-
Tony's going to go get his frickin' stupid SR-71 killer thing and zap all of us because we're at 30 minutes and 27 seconds. So, yes, we're wrapping this motherfucker up right now.
Right on. Thank you guys very much. We'll talk more the next time. Follow us. Follow Fat, Drunk, and Happy. Follow all three of us. Check out this disaster that's about to happen. I love it, man. You guys down?
Down.
Let's do it.
Peace.
Peace. Welcome back to Fat, Drunk, and Happy.
Don't ever call me fat again, dude.
Oh, well.
Hey,
Well, how about this?
Call
Call me
never
fat.
call me drunk.
Call me fat all the time.
Yeah.
I'm better at that, dude.
I quit
I'm gonna
drinking.
call-
Which one am I?
You're the happy guy.
Oh, I'm happy. I
we
forgot about
talked
that.
about
Yeah,
this.
That's
exactly.
right.
We haven't seen it yet, but it's coming.
Okay, cool.
man.
Awesome. I'll roll that one out.
So let's get to know a little bit about Happy. Dave.
Hi, I'm happy.
Happy
Interested.
day.
Interested, dude.
Dave.
You've lived quite the life. You've done some amazing things. Tell us what you've done.
Well, I got it.
You can't just start with that. You have to be
Yeah,
like
man.
specific. Like you can be
So-
like, "Hey,
so
man,
let's
so I know
go
you
into
were
this.
born. You're 52. Tell me about it."
Hey,
That's
exactly,
not like
right,
a real
yeah.
thing, dude.
You got to be your own self promoter.
I-
Hey, so let me throw this out. You've done movies. You've been behind the bar. You've been a chef. You're a writer. You've worked with Disney doing photography and some amazing things. I want to hear some of these stories. So let's start. Which one came first out of those?
Puberty.
Puberty. yeah.
Puberty came first. Let's just call it what
Yeah.
it is.
Well, my first job was at McDonald's when I was a kid. You know, and that-
Dude, me too.
Yeah, I mean, we shared that.
Yeah.
So I've been in the restaurant business forever. I did a year and a half at McDonald's before I quit and burned my uniform and framed it because it was terrible. But yeah, my first real restaurant job was at this place called Magnolia's Peach that used to be in Upland, and I worked broiler there.
Wasn't that in Fullerton too?
Brea.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
Magnolia's Peach.
Magnolia's Peach, yeah,
Dude.
way back in the day.
That's old school.
Yeah, super OG. But yeah, I've been attracted to the restaurant industry. I worked at Medieval Times for a long time. That's where I started bartending. I put myself
What
through.
color were you?
I generally worked the green section actually because it was
I'm just curious.
What is your favorite movie cable guy, Tony? Come on, man.
Oh, Green was the best. He was the lecherous Las Vegas guy.
It was also the station that was farthest from the kitchen, which is the truth.
Where I can get high and do nothing.
No, seriously, me and Cody Requejo, we used to get stoned in the little spotlight booths up there. It was,
Of course.
it was super cool. But yeah, that's how actually I started bartending. They needed a bartender to pour draft Budweisers or Milwaukee's Best where they were pouring. And that was, I've been bartending for 30 years on and off now, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Long time, man.
I've seen a lot of permutations of the bar business. Yeah, always drawn back to the restaurant industry in some fashion or another. Right after film school, Cody knows this, but I've been working up in the High Sierra for this is my 24th season.
Do you know where
working-
the High Sierra is?
It's a mountain range.
Well, I know, but do you know what it is? Do you
Don't
know
call
the
me
pack
out.
range? No, I'm asking. Like,
I don't know.
Because I
Don't
didn't.
call me out.
No. Hold on. I'm not calling you out. What I'm saying is I didn't know.
Do they
and
make
then I
beer
watched-
like Sierra Nevada?
No. What? That's what I'm getting at.
Oh,
I didn't
God, he's got the goblet.
He got the ear.
Nerd alert. Hey, wench, bring me a flagon of ale.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is I didn't get it. I didn't get it either. And then when
Yeah.
he finally started posting pictures and talking about it, then I finally understood, like, this is actually going out with cowboys, something we don't understand, to, like, do these.
Cowboys
and
in
cook for-
California?
No.
Packers, yeah. So I,
Well, yeah, but
yeah.
Okay.
it's a whole different, like, we would never understand in a million years what he's talking about.
So explain it.
So it's near Yosemite. I work on the John Muir Trail, right in the middle of the John Muir Wilderness, actually. And there's a place called Vermilion Valley Resort that I've been cooking at for a long time. Another place called High Sierra Pack Station. John and Denise Cunningham live in the foothills outside of Fresno. They own the place. They've had that for 3 generations now. So actually it was the summer after I graduated from film school. I took the summer off and I went up there and cooked. I took the whole summer off.
Oh, cool.
And I worked in this little cafe up there, and I worked for John and Janice doing some pack trips, going out on the trail and doing all the Dutch oven cooking and all that kind of stuff. And it's been a big part of my
Last time I heard Dutch
oven. I know, right? Yeah,
I'm not going to go further than that other than,
Dutch
You
oven.
know.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
you know.
But yeah, it's it's a big part of my experience too. As far as when I opened the Alibi in Palm Springs, we did a lot of Basque cuisine. Enormous amount of my culinary influence is from the Central Valley, from Fresno and Bakersfield, and regional Mexican cuisine. And certainly, working in the high country gives you a different perspective. In fact, I finished my book this summer. I did a first draft last summer. It's called Up from the Flat, and it's reflecting.
Which I'm mad. Nias told me it was amazing.
It's a pretty interesting concept, but the Cowboys call where we're at down here the Flat. Oh yeah, if you have to go down to Fresno, I got to go down to the Flat. So up from the flat refers to the high country where I work. And in my book, I talk about the ideas of sustenance and hospitality and the two different ways that those happen up in the mountains versus what we would consider the contemporary world we inhabit as chefs. And where do those cross over and where should things be? And it's a pretty esoteric concept, but it's, I'm sure a lot of old recipes from cowboys that I've worked with and stuff like that. So that's been a really big part of my influence as far as being a chef and simple dishes. In fact, I love sharing this story. This is great. I was in Vegas at a food convention one time, and I was sitting at a table with a bunch of other chefs. There was about 12 or 14 of us, and they brought a niçoise salad, right? And I always...
That means shitty.
I know, right?
In French.
In French, it means garbage.
Niçoise means I'm going to put everything that nobody else will eat on a fucking plate.
It means sewage.
And like, just so you know.
But it was funny because I always heard my redneck friends pronounce it Nicoise, right? Because they're a bunch of rednecks from Fresno, and that's how the Portuguese supposedly say niçoise. So I'm like, wow, this Nicoise is really good. And these guys looked at me like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know, man. That's how I learned to pronounce it. But that's a pretty good example of where I come from, like a real simple sort of rural-ish. I've been, I can execute whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. But if you're asking where my heart and soul is with food, it's definitely with that. But, I was bar manager at Memphis for 17 years. I've been hanging out there since 1995, pretty much since they opened. And that was a great experience. I love bartending. I actually love bartending more than I like chefing.
Oh, well,
because I like people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the idea of curating your bar and refereeing things. And like I told you, and I tell new bartenders all the time, like, pouring drinks is 20% of it. 80% of it is culture and people, and it'll teach you a lot about people. And I worked at Linda's Doll Hut, the legendary punk rock joint in Anaheim for a long time, and came up with a lot of that crew. So I've had a pretty diverse background, and then I kind of lateraled into being an executive chef and opening a restaurant in Austin, Texas. I helped the guys with Proof and Cooper from the 1886 group, and was co-executive chef up in Venice, and opened the District Lounge in Orange. That was my first restaurant, which was a barbecue place. So
nice.
These are all different aspects, and that's on top of being a writer. So
Dude, tell me a tiny bit about what you did at Disney as far as photography. I was a former cast member, so I worked at the Disneyland Hotel, or not the Disneyland Hotel, the Grand Californian Hotel. Doing Disney. I mean, if you grew up in Orange County, Disney's got a place in your heart for most people.
Totally.
So I'd love to hear what you've gotten to do with Disney.
I got to be honest, I stumbled into it. I had a mutual friend that was working over at the park, and it's a long corporate story, but the short version is they used to do all the food photography in Florida, and the edict came down from Disney corporate that the West Coast needed to support their own properties. And I happened to be friends with the guy that was rolling out the program. And we had a mutual friend that knew that I did a ton of rock and roll photography back in the day. I studied photography as a minor. So I was out on the road with Henry Rollins and Social Distortion and all these bands.
Oh, look at you. Nobody, just a little, man.
That's what I like about Dave. That's what I like about Dave. Dave's like, hey, man, just so you know. And the blah is
the most interesting part. The most interesting part.
Just so you know.
So get into that.
Hang on. Let me finish this. So the Disney thing came up. I knew the guy that was doing the photography. He knew had a photography background, and I was a chef. So he's like, hey, can you take pictures of food? I'm like, no, but I'll figure it out. And 10 years now,
Wow.
I've been part of the team doing that.
That's amazing, man.
It's cool. But yeah, I was fortunate. I did a lot of rock and roll photography. I grew up with the guys that started Golden Voice, Paul Toilet and all those guys. And I didn't like to pay to get into gigs. So I would always ask Kevin Lyman or Paul.
That's how I got into everything.
No, exactly. You're the same. Yeah, that's why you started doing Coachella things.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat or go to anything.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do what I do, and hopefully I can get in.
Yeah, just show up there and pretend like you know what you're doing.
It worked.
But yeah, so I would just ask for photo passes so I wouldn't have to pay to get into shows. And I was studying photography. I always had my camera kit with me. So I just, again, I've had people tell me that I've been Forrest Gumping my way through the life here in Orange County. It's the truth. I just kind of come to these weird cultural crossroads randomly and like, oh, hey, I'm right here, guys. And whether it was Memphis or the Doll Hut or anything else. But again, those are all experiences that feed back into my chef narrative. And we all have those narratives as chefs and bartenders and everything else that, those are the things that make us who we are. Kind of like at the beginning of the podcast when I was talking about the idea of chef life. What is chef life? It's not just what you put on a plate or how many hours you work or the people you hang out with. It's who you are as a person.
Well, it's encompassing now. It's encompassing now. Like people actually see a life now, thanks to David Chang.
Absolutely, totally, and thanks to people that aren't here anymore too.
Right.
That couldn't balance that.
Right.
So when I preach my gospel of food and culture and things like that, like I sometimes I feel like people look at me like I'm a fucking alien. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm
Well,
like,
you are.
Well, I am an alien. Yeah, I get
You
that.
are.
part.
Anybody who talks out publicly, they're an alien. That's just reality. People are like, oh shit, I'm scared of that guy.
How dare he speak?
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
they have an opinion.
How dare
yeah.
they say their words?
Yeah, they don't understand that you're just saying what you believe and you're not talking for everybody.
No, and I think a lot of people get freaked out by the fact that you might actually have opinion. We live in the restaurant world, whether it's bartending or chefing.
Yeah.
We live in a world where opinions aren't always valued. I always say that as an executive chef, it is not my job to be the best chef in the room, and you believe this too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's my job to make everybody else in the room the best chef.
Yeah.
That's just how it
100%.
works. Like, so I did an article about what makes a good sous chef, and a lot of executive chefs are threatened by good sous chefs. And my executive sous, Claudia, she was like Radar O'Reilly for MASH. She was like handing shit to me before
I
I
love
ate
that
it.
you just brought up MASH.
I
I
that
love
one.
MASH, dude. I was sad when MASH ended.
I remember that.
I actually
last
remember
episode.
crying as a kid.
I
when MASH
was there
done.
too. I remember that last one. But I think some executive chefs are threatened by that, and it's like, no, I'm cool. Like, please make my job, make me look good. You know what I mean? Like that's what I need, because I'm not going to do it on my own. And you talked about when you came in the restaurant industry, walking up to the guys on the line saying, hey, I really don't know what you're doing, but can you show me so I can show you how to do it better? Like, yeah, it's just.
Well,
100%.
Let me throw this out, because I know we want to know about a little bit about your rock and roll career, and we definitely want to know about your writing. And then you get to interview Cody, because, I mean, we all know Cody, but we got to make sure everybody knows Cody.
Absolutely. The full depth.
Tell
I'm
us
not going to get naked. I'm just letting you know right now. I'm not taking off my clothes.
there is a pool here, man.
Yeah.
You can't take a dip, skinny dip, if you like. But what
Bro,
have you
you're
done
married
as far as
22 years today. What are you talking about?
Seriously.
Who brought this guy?
I don't
What
know.
happened?
You did.
yeah, that's right. You
My
did.
fault.
Don't blame Tony.
The bald, the Blue Man Group right there. So as far as rock and roll and what you've gotten to do with that, and as far as your writing career, I mean, just tell us a tiny bit about that, because you're a very interesting and mysterious gentleman.
The rock and roll thing just fell into place working at Linda's Doll Hut. And so actually my career started because of that. I lived at this place called the Calvin Room. It was a legendary party house in Huntington Beach. And I was roommates with the Save Ferris guys, and Big Sandy's drummer lived there. And some of the ancillary No Doubt crew would kind of wander in and out. And I was the guy that knew how to cook. So literally how this whole thing, the reason that I am sitting here right now started, was because people would get back from on tour. Me and my late brother Chris were the ones that knew how to cook. They would park their tour van on our lawn, literally, and pile out of it drunk, and I would have a big giant barbecue going. That's literally how all this started. And that doesn't mean that I always didn't enjoy cooking or working in the restaurant business, but as far as this idea of a encompassing entity, whatever the fuck that is anyways, started because of that. And as far as my writing career goes, I was working with Cody Requejo at the retreat, and I was doing little one-off blurbs for our website. And I remember him saying, wow, you can really write. I'm like, well, I've been able to write since I was a kid, and I wrote some screenplays and whatever. And he's like, well, you should be a food writer. And I remember looking Cody in the eye and saying, Cody, I will never be a food writer. I guarantee it. And then doodly, fast forward like 8 years, and I'm a goddamn food
Well,
writer.
you're not a food critic, though.
No, and I don't want to be. But
That's what I mean. There's a huge difference.
Huge difference, man.
Well, and Niaz called me the Anthony Bourdain of Orange County, which I was very flattered.
Well,
I'm
you
not
have
sure.
a very honest approach.
Well, you do too, and you do too. You know what I mean? We talk honestly. That's why we're all here. We have
Right.
opinions, and we're honest about them. And that's kind of the whole point of Fat, Drunk, and Happy, is to extrapolate that message out and have it kind of like propagate naturally without it seeming forced or having to brand it.
Well,
like,
there's no
this is what it is.
forcing, for sure.
No, you can't force it. Yeah, and that's the worst thing. Square peg, round hole. Well, I mean, except in certain circumstances. Just
Hold
generally
on.
Hold on. Whoa.
Any
Throttle
port in
back.
a storm.
Any port in a storm, exactly. But yeah, and I think all those experiences, again, kind of circling back to how we opened the podcast of that idea of chef life and or bartender life or anything else. Those are the things that make us who we are and make us interesting. And I did another piece on what the difference between being a chef and being a cook is, and it was called the C word, too many chefs in the kitchen. And it started off by a casual
Oh,
observation.
you said C word.
C word, yeah, different C word.
I
But
just want to clarify.
it started off with a casual
Cook
observation.
is a four-letter
word for cook. Yeah.
I agree.
But it started off with a casual observation. I walked into the kitchen at the Ace Hotel when I was working one time, and I asked one of the prep leads, hey, how things are going today? And she said, well, there's too many chefs and not enough cooks. And that literally set off a light bulb in my head. So I did a piece about that, what it's like as a chef versus what it's like as a cook. And a cook is like working at a flower shop or surfboard shop or anything else. You show up and you get your paycheck and you go home. If you're a chef, we inhabit different head spaces. I lay awake at night, not thinking necessarily about numbers sometimes, but worrying about what I'm going to make the next day. I dreamt about it last night. I have a service, this afternoon in Temecula. And, that's what makes a chef more encompassing than a cook.
Yeah, we care.
And we care. And you can't, I never asked for that title. I remember when people started calling me Chef Dave, and I'm like, who the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, oh, wow, it's me. I don't care if someone goes to school, that doesn't mean they're a chef. You earn that through life.
No, I told somebody the other day, I said, hey, man, you can go to an embroidery shop and get chef on your shirt. No recommend, no, nothing. It doesn't mean anything. You can do anything you want and call yourself what you want, but a chef is what other people look at you as. So if they call you a chef, that means they meant it.
Yeah.
Not because you demanded it.
That's how it is with mixologists, man. You're a bartender.
Cockology.
I don't know what you're into, baby.
Cockology. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But what
I
I'm
like
saying
cocktails and I like ology.
but what I'm saying is people can call you a mixologist, but you don't call yourself a mixologist. And it's kind of the same saying on the same philosophy on what you're going on. And since we're on the subject, let's get to Mr. Chef Cody Storts here.
We'll do it on the next one.
No, we'll do it on this one.
No,
we
we're
got
at
18. Yeah.
Hey,
we're
we're
20
going to
minutes.
edit. Yeah, it's totally fine. But let's talk a tiny bit about what you've done and what you are. Let's talk about you feeding rich people balls. I mean, that's really what everybody wants
How about
to
this?
know.
Let's leave it at that.
Let's leave it. I agree. That'll be the teaser for the next one. That'll be the teaser for the
Let's
next one.
leave it.
Leaving the
I'll put
audience
my
wanting
balls.
more.
Yes, exactly.
I'm gonna say let's put my balls in everybody's mouth. We'll call it at that.
We'll call it at that. That's
All right.
that's a capital idea. Let's leave that for the next one. Yes.
All
Love
right.
it.
Hey, love you guys. Fat, drunk, and happy.
Fat,
Fat, drunk, and happy. See you for the next one.
Nate, cheers.